I went home after I overheard my husband say he didn't want to bring me with him to his family vacation. I was grabbing some takeout from our usual Chinese place when I heard his voice from the next booth over. He was talking to his brother on the phone, and I almost dropped my sesame chicken when I heard him say, "Honestly, I don't really want to bring Emma with me. The whole family thing is already stressful enough without having to babysit her around my relatives." I froze. We've been talking about this vacation for months. His family does this big lake house thing every summer in Michigan, and this would be my first time going. I'd already requested time off work, bought new swimsuits, and spent like $300 on presents for his nieces and nephews. I quietly paid for my food and drove home, my hands shaking the entire time. When I walked in, he was sprawled on our couch watching Netflix like nothing happened. "Hey babe, how was your day?" he asked without even looking up. I just stared at him. "So, when exactly were you planning to tell me I'm not invited to your family vacation anymore?" His face went white. He muted the TV and sat up real quick. "Emma, what are you talking about? I heard you on the phone with your brother. Something about not wanting to babysit me around your relatives." He started doing that thing where he runs his hands through his hair when he's caught. "Look, it's not what it sounded like. My mom's been really weird about you coming, and my sister Jessica keeps making these comments about how I bring too many girlfriends around. I just thought maybe it would be easier if too many girlfriends. We've been married for 2 years, Dylan." That shut him up real quick. Turns out this wasn't just about his family being weird. He'd been complaining to his brother about having to explain our relationship dynamic to his relatives. Apparently, I'm too independent and it makes his traditional family uncomfortable. His exact words were that I don't act like a proper wife and it reflects badly on him. I asked him what the hell that even meant, and he started listing stuff like how I kept my last name, how I make more money than him, how I don't want kids right now, how I call him out when he's being an idiot instead of just smiling and nodding. So basically, you want me to pretend to be someone else around your family? It's just for a week, and can't you just tone it down a little? That's when I lost it. I told him if he was embarrassed by who I was, maybe he shouldn't have married me in the first place. He tried backtracking, saying he loved me exactly how I was, but clearly that was if he couldn't even defend me to his own family. I went upstairs and started packing a bag. Not for the vacation, obviously, but to stay at my sister's place for a few days. Dylan followed me around the house asking what I was doing, saying I was overreacting, that we could work this out. "You know what the funny part is?" I said while throwing my work clothes into a suitcase. "I was actually excited to meet your family. I bought presents for everyone. I even learned how to make your mom's stupid potato salad recipe from that cookbook she sent me." He didn't say anything to that. I ended up staying at my sister Kate's for almost a week. Dylan texted me constantly, but I ignored most of them. His family vacation came and went, according to his Instagram stories. He looked miserable the entire time. His mom kept asking where I was, and apparently he had to explain to everyone that we were going through a rough patch. The breaking point came when Kate showed me something on Facebook. Dylan's sister, Jessica, had posted this long rant about how modern women don't know how to support their husbands anymore, and how marriage is about compromise and sacrifice. It was obviously about me, and Dylan had liked the post. When I finally came home, I found him sitting at our kitchen table with a bunch of printed articles about saving your marriage spread out in front of him. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. "I've been thinking," he said, "maybe we should try couples therapy." I sat down across from him and picked up one of the articles. It was titled, "How to Be a More Supportive Wife." I couldn't help but laugh. "Did you print these out for me to read?" I just thought maybe if we both worked on some things. "What exactly do I need to work on, Dylan?" "Being less successful, having fewer opinions, changing my entire personality so your family likes me better." He got defensive and said that wasn't what he meant, but we both knew it was. We tried therapy for like a month, but it became pretty clear that he wanted me to change and I wasn't going to. The therapist kept asking him why he married me if he had such a problem with who I was, and he never had a good answer. After that, things got tense at home. Dylan started acting more cautious around me, measuring his words, trying not to offend me. But it just made everything feel awkward and fragile. Every comment I made was analyzed for potential mistakes, and every joke I tried to crack landed like a brick. I realized that even therapy couldn't fix someone who didn't want to face the core issue. He was embarrassed by me, by who I was and how I existed outside of his family's narrow expectations. One evening, I came home from work and found a carefully folded note on the counter. It wasn't even a letter, just a short message in his neat handwriting. "I tried to change for you. I can't anymore. Can we talk?" I stared at it, my stomach twisting. The nerve of this man. He wanted me to feel guilty? I didn't respond that night. I cooked my dinner, ate in silence, and left the dishes in the sink. The next morning, Dylan cornered me by the door as I was leaving for work. "Emma, we need to talk," he said. I shook my head. "Dylan, we already talked. And we tried therapy. What else is there?" He looked desperate, eyes wide, and he said the one thing that made my blood boil. "I just want my family to accept us the way we are." I laughed, bitter and short. "Your family doesn't accept me the way I am. That's the problem. You're the one who married me, not them. Not your aunt, not your mom, not Jessica, me. And now you're asking me to disappear so they feel comfortable? That's insane." He didn't say anything. He just stood there. And I walked out, slammed the door, and drove to my office with my hands gripping the steering wheel until they turned white. All day, I couldn't concentrate. Every client call, every email, every spreadsheet blurred together because my brain was spinning with disbelief. How could the person I trusted the most, the man I married, actually want me to shrink into a shadow just to make his relatives comfortable? That weekend, I called my best friend Mara. She's been my rock for years. I vented for hours, telling her every detail from the takeout overheard conversation to the passive-aggressive Instagram stories and the ridiculous therapy sessions. Mara listened quietly, then said the thing I didn't want to admit out loud. "Emma, he's not just embarrassed by you. He's trying to control you. You need to decide what's more important, your marriage or your self-respect." I didn't answer right away. I just sat in silence, thinking about every time I had downplayed my personality to make him feel more comfortable. Every time I bit my tongue. Every single time I had smiled and nodded when I wanted to argue. All of it felt like surrender. A week later, Dylan came home from work with a fake smile plastered across his face. "I made reservations for dinner," he said. I raised an eyebrow. "Why? To convince me you're sorry? Or to lecture me about how I need to compromise?" He flinched at the tone but nodded, embarrassed. I didn't go. Instead, I packed a small overnight bag and drove to Mara's apartment. That night, we drank wine, ordered takeout, and talked until our throats hurt. I realized I hadn't felt free in months, maybe years, not just because of Dylan, but because I was constantly trying to meet someone else's expectations. 2 weeks later, Dylan sent me a text that read, "We need to talk about us." I didn't reply. Instead, I started making a list. A list of what I wanted, what I deserved, and what I was willing to accept in a partner. Number 1, mutual respect. Number 2, unconditional support, not support conditional on what makes someone else comfortable. Number 3, someone who could handle a strong woman, without feeling embarrassed in front of their family. As I wrote, I realized the answers were staring me in the face. Dylan hadn't changed and he wouldn't. No therapy, no heart-to-heart, no pleading would alter that reality. When he showed up at my apartment unannounced, I let him in, but only for a short conversation. "Emma, I can change. I swear. I just need a chance to." I held up my hand. "Dylan, it's not me who needs to change. It's you. And I don't see you changing. You married me expecting me to shrink, to soften, to vanish. That's not marriage. That's control. I don't do control. I don't do shrinkage. I don't do vanish." His face fell, a mix of shock and hurt. And I felt a twinge of guilt, not because I was wrong, but because I knew he was truly upset. He believed his behavior was normal, even reasonable. That didn't make it acceptable. Over the next month, I moved out temporarily into a small apartment downtown. Dylan refused to sign any papers or formally separate, insisting he was still committed. But I didn't care. For the first time in years, I had space to breathe, to think, to be my full self. I went to dinner with friends without worrying what he'd think. I laughed at movies he wouldn't find funny. I bought clothes and colors he didn't like. I even took a weekend trip to the mountains with Mara, where I swam in the lake and shouted as loud as I wanted just because I could. Each day felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd forgotten existed. Then came the confrontation everyone knew was inevitable. Dylan came to the apartment one evening, holding his phone like a weapon. "Emma, your friends are talking," he said. "They say you're being reckless, showing off in public, humiliating me in front of everyone. Don't you care about our marriage?" I laughed hard, the kind of laugh that's almost painful because it's liberating. "You've made it clear what you care about: your image, your family, their opinions, their comfort. You think I'm reckless for living my life? I think I'm finally awake. You wanted me to disappear for your comfort? I'm here, fully alive, me. If that humiliates you, that's not my problem." After that night, Dylan stopped contacting me as aggressively. He sent occasional emails, long and passive-aggressive, trying to guilt me. But I didn't respond. I spent that summer learning what independence truly meant, learning what boundaries really look like, and how to cultivate a life that didn't revolve around someone else's insecurities. I found a sense of empowerment I'd never experienced before. The lake house vacation happened without me, and according to friends who were invited, Dylan looked stressed, uncomfortable, constantly explaining himself to relatives who didn't even understand why he'd been avoiding me. Months later, I signed a lease for a new apartment in a different part of the city. It was mine entirely, my rules, my space, my freedom. I finally understood that love couldn't be conditional, that marriage wasn't about appearances or control, and that being with someone who respected me meant more than 1,000 summers in a lake house. And while Dylan would always be a part of my history, he no longer had a place in my present. I had discovered something more valuable than any family vacation: the right to exist unapologetically as myself, without shrinking for anyone, no matter how much they demanded it. Story to during a family dinner, I accidentally bumped into my wife's mother. She slapped me hard in front of everyone and yelled, "How dare you touch me, you disgusting man. Clean my dress and get out." To my shock, my wife said, "Apologize to her or leave." I left the dinner. But when they got back home, a shocking surprise awaited them. Chapter 1: The slap that broke everything. The clink of silverware and the low hum of conversation filled the lavish dining room of my in-laws' estate. My wife Lydia sat beside me, perfectly composed in her designer dress, laughing softly at something her brother had said. Her parents, especially her mother, Evelyn, watched every move like royalty inspecting peasants. I had always felt like an outsider in their world, a small business owner, a hands-on contractor. I wasn't refined like the doctors and entrepreneurs surrounding the long marble table. But I loved Lydia, that used to be enough. I leaned slightly to pass the salad bowl across the table when it happened. I bumped into Evelyn's chair. Barely. She gasped theatrically as if I had spilled acid on her. "You disgusting man," she hissed. Then, smack. Her palm landed across my face with sharp precision. The room went dead silent. My cheek burned not just from the slap, but from the collective stare of every guest around the table. I started stunned. She stood, inspecting her designer gown as if I had ruined it. "Look at this. Touching me with your filth. Clean my dress now. Then get out." I turned to Lydia, surely she'd say something. "Defend me, step in." But she didn't. Instead, with her wine glass still half raised, she said coldly, "Apologize to her or leave." For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. Then I saw it. The slight smirk her brother failed to hide. The way her father leaned back, amused. I wasn't part of the family. I was a hired help they tolerated. The charity case their daughter married during her rebellious phase. I didn't speak another word. I stood up, adjusted my shirt collar, nodded once, and calmly walked out. Past the shocked faces, past the staff, past the family portraits I had never been in. As I reached the door, I paused. I didn't slam it. I didn't curse. I just smiled because they had no idea what was waiting for them back at home. Chapter 2. The locks had already been changed. The night air bit against my face as I stepped outside. But I didn't feel the cold. All I felt was clarity. For the first time in years, I wasn't trying to belong. I wasn't begging for scraps of love or respect. I was done. I got in my truck, drove home, and when I arrived, I did exactly what I had been quietly planning for months, just in case things ever went too far. And they had. First, I opened the Storytime app on my phone and tapped deactivate access. Every key card, code, and fingerprints saved under Lydia's name and her parents gone. Second, I opened the garage. The boxes I had packed over the last few weeks, documents, valuables, cash reserves, and my tools were already waiting. I had learned to be ready. Marrying into wealth doesn't mean safety. It means control. I had been quietly building an exit, and now the exit was open. By the time Lydia and her family returned later that night, drunk on wine and arrogance, they were met by a surprise. The key fob didn't work. Her mother pushed the intercom. "Open the door right now." I didn't answer. Instead, I activated the speaker system. My voice rang out from the porch camera. "Lydia, you told me to leave, remember? So? I did. You also told me this house was yours. Strange, the deed says otherwise. Also, Evelyn, you wanted your dress cleaned. I dropped it off at Goodwill along with everything else that came from your cursed lineage." There was a pause, then chaos. They banged on the door, rang the bell, shouted threats. But I wasn't inside anymore. I was across the street in a cozy Airbnb I'd rented for the week, watching it all unfold on my phone, sipping bourbon, smiling. Then my lawyer texted, "The first round of filings are ready. Do you want to go nuclear?" I replied with one word, "Absolutely." Chapter 3. The detonation begins. By the time the sun rose, the first cracks in her world had already formed. Lydia woke up in a hotel, courtesy of her father's black card no doubt, and found herself locked out of all our joint accounts. I closed them the night before. Her frantic calls came in just after 6 a.m. I didn't answer, but I did save the voicemails. Her voice was a chaotic symphony of confusion, rage, and desperation. "What the hell is going on? Where are you? Why isn't my card working? And what do you mean you moved out? I sent her a text, don't worry, you'll get answers soon. In court, then came the company group chapam. Remember that family business they all looked down on me for helping manage? I had spent the last decade quietly building its digital backbone. Payroll, security systems, tax records, vendor contracts, all routed through infrastructure I designed before I left. I handed over access to their biggest competitor, along with a tip about some questionable accounting practices Lydia's father had swept under the rug. A full-blown audit was scheduled within a week. Her family had mocked me for being just the son-in-law. Now, their empire was under siege. Next, the scandal, that slap Lydia's mother gave me, it just so happened to be caught on camera. HD footage, courtesy of the nanny cam I discreetly set up months ago after too many accidents. I uploaded the footage anonymously. It went viral. A respected socialite smacking her son-in-law and yelling slurs at the dinner table. The internet erupted. By mid-afternoon, Lydia's mom had stepped down from 3 charity boards. Public backlash was brutal, but the most satisfying blow came late that evening. Lydia received a certified letter delivered to her hotel. Inside, a divorce petition, a notarized copy of our prenup, one she laughed off as a cute little backup when we signed it, an eviction notice from the property. My property she claimed was hers, a letter from the lawyer of a nonprofit that I had secretly funded, thanking her for the massive donations she unknowingly made when I liquidated, and redirected all her gifts to me. Final line of the letter: you mocked the man I was, but you underestimated the man I became. Chapter for ruins, regret, and realization. The news broke just after lunch. Socialite family under investigation for tax fraud and charitable misconduct. Headlines flooded local outlets, then spread nationally. Lydia's father went radio silent. Her mother, humiliated and forced off every board she'd ever boasted about, locked her social accounts, and issued a vague statement about private family matters. But it was Lydia who felt the brunt. By sunset, her influencer brand had lost its biggest sponsorship. Her luxury skincare deal pulled out, citing reputational risk. Comments on her post turned brutal. A liar married to a fraud. She slapped her husband's dignity, and now karma slapped back harder. No wonder he walked away like a boss. She tried calling me again. I let it ring, then blocked her number. But the final act came at her feet. The next morning, Lydia stormed into my lawyer's office unannounced, mascara running, eyes hollow. She had a crumpled tabloid in one hand and a printed copy of a wire transfer in the other. You gave away my car, the watch I bought you. My attorney calmly slid over the prenup again. Technically, he gave away what he rightfully owns. You didn't just cheat on your husband, Lydia. You underestimated a man who loved you. And now he's gone. She collapsed into the chair. I didn't think he'd ever leave. He was just so boring. Quiet, always fixing things. Yes, my lawyer replied. And now he fixed you. Outside, I stood watching through the window. My new apartment overlooked the same skyline Lydia used to post on her socials. The one she claimed we'd never afford. And beside me, my daughter, the only one who came looking for me that night, crying and apologizing for not standing up for me at dinner. I don't want their money, Dad. She whispered. I want to work with you. Learn what it means to build something real. I smiled finally, really smiled. Legacy rebuilt, respect earned, and for the first time in years, peace. Epilogue. A reputation rewritten. 6 months later, a new article surfaced. This time in a respected business magazine. The man they mocked at dinner is now leading a multi-million-dollar community plumbing enterprise. And he's hiring people they all once ignored. There I was on the cover, not in a tux, not in some rented spotlight, but in a work shirt, sleeves rolled up next to a fleet of vans with my company logo. Second chances plumbing and repair, because that's what I believed in now, second chances. Except not for everyone. Lydia was working part-time at a boutique. Her social clout gone. Her family still tied up in lawsuits. Her rich ex long gone. Apparently, he'd only shown up to her wedding to humiliate me and vanished when the money dried up. Her parents disowned her, said she brought shame to their name. My daughter. She co-manages marketing for my growing business and is attending school part-time. She told me one day, "You're not just my dad. You're the definition of resilience, and me." I got invitations from the same elite families that once sneered at my job. I never responded. Some doors once shut don't need to be reopened. Final line, I wasn't a loser. I was a builder. And the life I rebuilt brick by brick stood stronger than any mansion ever could. Was this revenge perfectly justified?